Hello, this is Dr. Heath Van Horn. I am making this video to walk students through the chapter on developing the pfSense intranet for network hardening. I'm doing this on my laptop, so I don't have a lot of screen space, and I'm old, so I can't see very well. So I'm just going to devote the whole space to GNS3, and you can follow along in the textbook as you are able. All right, the first part of the textbook says we are going to make a very interesting topology. So we're going to do that right now. I don't know what I have configured on this, but we will find out in a second. All right, so we're going to use a Ubuntu server. I made a Ubuntu server specifically for this, so I got to import it. So I go to Preferences, VirtualBox, New, and these ones here I made for CI 311. So we'll do that one. Then another one. And then another one. All right, so that gives us the three uh, devices we need for 311. If you haven't built your pfSense server, the instructions are, I emailed those to you already, but the instructions are pretty clear. I tested them, and I also made a video, so you should have those. If that becomes complicated, you can always copy them out of the lab by cloning the pfSense server to your thumb drive, and you should be fine in that regard. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is do some of this basic stuff here. We're going to put a cloud in the environment. We don't do this very often, but we need that for here. Oops, I got to create the project first. So new blank project. I'm going to save that locally to my thumb drive, and we'll put it in the 311 class. All right. Okay, so that's been created. So now we're going to drag a cloud over. We're going to do it to we're going to call this our ISP. And then we're going to give it an IP address. I don't know how accurate this is, but we'll change it once we know it. 192.168.122.0. It should be that. I set up the stuff usually mirror what I have at home and what I have in the book and what I have on the laptop. So if it's not that, it should be pretty close to that. All right. Then we need a gray area, lower layer, style, fill color. We're going to go with gray. Apply. Okay. And we'll make this a little bigger. So we'll throw a switch in there. And I'm doing this very quickly, but it's a video, so you can rewind it anytime. We need an external PC. Which is fine. That is going to be one we just added, not the firewall, Ubuntu desktop. That'll be the one, if that's the right name. Yep. So we'll use that as our, well, let's use that one for our ad. I think we can use, I don't remember the instructions. I think we can use just about anything for that external PC. So I should have another, don't want to use that, don't want to use that. We'll just leave that blank for now. All right, another block. We're going to make this one purple. Oops. Lower layer, style, purple, and purple. All right. And we are going to put a switch in there. Again, this is an unmanaged switch. We're just going to throw that in there. There we go. Then we're going to build a red square, lower layer, style, red, red, right. Make this a little bigger. All right. We're going to throw a switch in there. Then we need a web server, which we have. There's the web server. All right. And then the firewall, which is right there. And then we're going to have our LAN, which we're going to put here. We're going to change that to blue. And then blue. We'll make this nice and big because we have a lot of devices in here. Then we're going to throw in a switch. Again, this is an unmanaged switch. And then we're going to throw in some VPCSs just so that way. All right. And we're going to leave the wires like they are now, just so that way. I really don't like this. So let's go back to here. And, oh, that would help a lot if we did that. All right, let's throw some labels in here so we know what's what. So we're going to do that right now. We got our LAN set to 10.0.0.0 network. We're going to put that there. Then we're going to have our DMZ, and our web server is just there to give us something to poke at. It doesn't have to be set up for DHCP or anything. We'll be doing that in a different way. So we'll throw that in there. And then for the purple, we'll call that management. And we'll call it 99.99.99.0. And we'll throw that down here. And gray is obviously 192.168.122.24. All right. So we have that. So let's look at step one. Step one says change the network settings in the Ubuntu server so the adapter 1 is set to NAT or NAT network. Power on the VM. Okay, I've already done this. I made sure Apache 2 was on this web server. If you built your server according to the directions in the textbook, Apache should already be installed. I'm not going to go through that again because my image was a little slow, or it was old and it took about 30 minutes to update. So if it's already installed, you're probably pretty good. All right. pfSense firewall, it says enable the network number 4 in the settings. Ooh, I did not do that, so let's double check that. So I go to the firewall, pfSense firewall, I go to settings, and it should have 4. It does not have anything attached. So the first one, or these ones should be internal. That one should be internal. That one should be internal. And this one should be NAT or NAT network, whichever is allowed. All right. Cable connected, cable connected, cable connected, and cable connected. All right. Better make sure that these ones also have their networks configured, and they do not. So the desktop should be internal or generic driver, it doesn't really matter. And the server should also have a generic driver. All right, so we did that. Now it says this device needs to have 4 networks, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should allow to use any adapter, which is fine. We'll apply that, hit OK. Let's do that before we run into issues here. We'll say yes, OK. Configure, yes, OK. And then we should be fine. All right. You don't have to import a Chromium appliance. We are already using a no, we can do that. So all you have to do is to input a Chromium appliance, go to your website, Marketplace, GNS3 Marketplace, go to Appliances, and we want a Chromium I could spell it. And we do download. All right, we can close that. Then we just do, oops, we do this here where we import an appliance. We downloaded it to Chromium or to the downloads folder. We import it exactly the same as before. And now we have a Chromium box that we can use on the Gray network right there. And it'll take a second to build because it's using Docker, but it's fine. It works just fine. All right, so we'll let that do its thing. Um, all right, when it gets done, we'll continue. So in the purple box, we should have this stuff here. I already did all this. So we should have a client guest VM with a browser. Yep, we're just using that one. We're using DMZ. We're using the Ubuntu server. Okay, so let's turn that one on. And while that's booting up, we'll start connecting some wires. We're going to go from Chromium to switch 1. Switch 1 to the ISP. Doesn't matter which branch you set up on. And we'll turn that one on. Let's put a cable between here and the web server. We'll do a cable between here and here. It'll take a second for that web server to boot. That's just the way it is. We don't want to connect things to the firewall because each port has a different function, or each interface on that firewall has a different function. So we don't want to turn those on just yet. All right, let's see how our server is going. It's loading slowly. My laptop is a lot slower than your guys's. It's old, but we're getting there. All right, while that's still loading, we're going to go down to in phase 1, step 5, where it says to do the connections. All right, we're going to connect Ethernet 0 from the ISP. Doesn't matter what goes on the switches. It matters that this end is Ethernet 0. We're going to do Ethernet 1 to the management switch. Then we're going to do Ethernet 2 to the DMZ. And then we're going to do the last one to our internal LAN. It doesn't, cosmically speaking, matter which one of these you point to wherever, but you would have to reconfigure these interfaces. And so if you went through the walkthrough for the firewall, for the pfSense firewall, you will find yourself having to reconfigure all that stuff. It's not that big of a deal for people that are practiced at it, but I'm trying to keep with what you guys are doing. Again, we can turn this on so we can see what ports are in what. We verify that that is where we want them, and then we turn that out so it doesn't look so busy. All right. Our server has booted. Now it'll take a second for that to finish booting. Some people freak out at this screen. It takes a minute, guys. We're not giving it a lot of RAM. Your CPUs are pretty slow, so it takes a while for this to do all the GUI stuff that we want it to see. All right. So we want to make sure that Apache is running. So that command is simply system control or CTL status Apache 2 service. And it says it's running. It's working just fine. So we are doing just fine. We can shrink that down. We probably have nothing left for this to do while we're working on it. Okay, we're going to start up our firewall. This will take a minute. This is our pfSense server firewall. I can rename that. All right, so we're going to follow this. Oh, it's booted already. It's ready to rock and roll. And this is the way it should look like. It'll take a little while before it gets to that menu again. Now, while that's booting, I'll tell you where we're at. We're in phase 2, step uh, 1. So we're just waiting for it to um, finish booting. All right, it's finished booting. So now we're going to see that all these interfaces are live and active. Yours may be blank. That's okay because we can fix them. So WAN and LAN should be already set from when you built the machine. So you can see that it has an IP address of 103.24. 9999 should be on this side. Yep, that looks good. On this end is all dot ones. So that tells us everything is working the way it's supposed to. If you need to set up your interfaces, I'm going to set up option 1. I'm just going to redo it here. You only need to see it once and you can figure it out. So if we want to set up our IP address spaces here, we're going to do 2 for setup interfaces. And it'll say, hey, what's the number of the interface you want to configure? We want to do option 1. So that is, it goes by lists. So you can see that the list is 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way on the left. We want to do option 1, so we want to do number 3. What is the IP address that we want to give it? Or do we want to have it do IPv4? No, we do not. So we're going to give it our IP address. It should be 99.99. Oops. Pretty sure that's what it should be. Let me turn this on again. option 1 should be E2, so it should be 20s. So we'll bring that back up. So it should be 20.0.0.1, and this one does CIDR. We do not have, that's not a WAN, so we don't care. We do not want IPv6. Just hit enter for none. Do we want to enable DHCP? Yes, we do. The start IP address is 20.0.0. I don't know, 10. And then the last address, 20.0.0. I don't know, 200. We're never going to have that many. Do you want to revert to the HTTP as the web configure protocol? No. If you screw that up, don't worry about it. All right. I know it affects the lab later on, but it's fine. All right, so now we have that IP address, and now we've seen how to adjust those anytime you need to. All right, so we did option 1. It looks good. That's the way it should look. Now, if we turn on our management PC, our admin PC, we can start that one up. I'm going to turn those off again because it looks busy. Okay. It's giving me an error because I have different graphic settings on my laptop than I do my desktop, which is fine. We could probably get away with another Chromium being there too, but this is more realistic. So long as it has a browser, you can use just about anything for these devices here. And you don't even need a browser for these. We just need something that can ping. All right, so we're going to open up our terminal, and we're going to do IPA, and we got an IP address of 99.99.99.5. So we know what this one is. That one's 0.5. And this end is 0.1, and all the ends are 0.1, so I'll just put that there. And so now we know what these IP addresses are. All right. So now we want to enter this one. Boy, that's really small. I apologize, but hey, you're going to have to live with it. All right. So we can close this, and we can open up Firefox. And, you know, we don't have the internet on this box, so we don't want to restore it. We're just going to open a new session, and we're going to say go to 99.99.99.1. And it may or may not give you an error. It's like, okay, well, it gave us an error. And if we go to advanced, we can say accept the risk and continue. And you want to do that. And it takes us right to pfSense. Yay! So now we can play with pfSense all that we want to from this regard. All right, this is all the hard stuff. So you guys should be able to move from here. pfSense, the password should be pfSense. Let me double check. Okay, be helpful if I. Oh, it doesn't like that one. All right. Well, let me Google pfSense default password. Oh, admin. It's admin in pfSense. Yay! And you can save the password. And now, so that is probably the hardest part of setting all this up is getting to this point. After that, it's just a matter of clicking, running, and doing the different aspects of the lab. Um, and so I'm going to leave the video there so that way you can do the configuration yourself and life will be good. All right. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, you can ask me tomorrow. Bye.